Okay. Can you guys see that? Gibby, can you see that?
Yes.
All right. So we've kind of gotten in this routine of kicking off the meetings with a quote. So tonight's quote is from John Wooden. He said, "Success comes from knowing that you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming." And so just think about that tonight. Let that resonate with you. And tonight's presenters, I'm extremely excited to have them on and share their knowledge. So with that, I will pass it over to Josh Reed, one of the presenters for tonight, and then we'll introduce them. Okay, perfect.
Cool. Can you see that, Bob?
So tonight, yeah, thanks, Josh. So tonight we're going to be covering 3-person coverage, and Josh Reed and Ben Wolfe have given up some of their time to do so, and we really appreciate that and appreciate the knowledge you guys are going to share. Just a little background on them and a quick bio. So Josh Reed, he's been a high school referee since 2012. He's worked 3 regionals in 2016, 17, and 19. He's also worked 2 state tournaments in 2017 and 2019. He's been selected to 2 finals as well, for the girls 2A final and the boys 3A final. He also currently works multiple college divisions and has worked those since 2015. He works Division II, Division III, NAIA, and junior college. He's been to 3 conference tournaments at that level. And then lastly, on his experience here, he's also a professional basketball referee, and he's been working professional basketball since 2018 in the basketball league. He's been selected to 2 playoff selections there and also worked a championship game there. Next up is Ben Wolfe. Both these guys are out of Spokane too, so the training is amazing, and I've worked a lot of games with them, so I'm really excited. So moving on to Ben Wolfe here. Ben has been a high school referee since 2004. He's worked regionals in 2015 and 2017. He worked the state tournament in 2017 and was selected for the boys 2A final. He's been a college referee since 2012, working multiple levels at the Division II level, Division III, NAIA, and junior college. Thus far, he's worked 5 conference tournaments and 4 finals, and that's definitely going to continue to grow. He's also been to the Division III national tournament back-to-back years in 2018 and 2019. Both of them are currently staff members for Showcase Officials Camp, and they can give a quick background on that and quick highlight. I've been to that camp a few times, and it's definitely helped my training and my career so far. And then Ben's last note here is he's been a board member for 5 years over in Spokane. So with that, I will kick it over to Josh and Ben. And if you guys want to quickly start with just a quick highlight on Showcase Officials Camp, we'll start with that.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. Josh, why don't you kick us off with Showcase?
Yeah. First, thank you guys for having us. Thanks, Bob and Manny, for inviting us on. This is definitely very humbling to be here. So appreciate you guys having us. Love anytime that we get to share information with these guys. Real quick, Showcase Officials Camp highlight. Just been a camp over in Spokane put on by Nate Harris and Justin Chamian, who have worked with the WOA the past few years on all that training that you guys have probably seen that's come out statewide. So those guys have put on a camp in Spokane, all geared towards any level officials. It's all about just getting better. And a lot of the stuff we talk about today will come from that. But it's just all about positioning and fundamentals. It has nothing to do with college basketball or anything. So just kind of a place where we got to start as campers, and now getting to teach at that camp is definitely very humbling for Ben and I. So coming up through the showcase family there. So.
Oh, Brian, okay. So Brian had a good question. When is typically a showcase? It's typically the first weekend in June. I know that because during the 2017 edition of Showcase, I had our third daughter was born, so I actually had to jet out, and the guys giving me a pretty hard time about that. But I didn't miss anything with the birth, so I'm still married, and life is
It's a good thing.
yeah. Oh yeah. Just want to echo what Josh said about the opportunity to be here. It's humbling for us, and we're hoping that we can all learn something in one way or another tonight, so we can work better as a team on the court, which is what this thing's all about. So positioning fundamentals is a topic that both Josh and I hold in high esteem because we believe it's the primary driver for our success. An integral part of that development for us includes some video breakdown, which we want to weave throughout the presentation tonight. So you can kind of get a sense of how best to use film to improve your game. So together, this combination, along with some honest self-assessment, will open the door for much more rapid growth acceleration in your game and in your career. So before we get into that, we want to hit the 5 keys to every game. And these 5 keys are a great starting point for your pregame discussions. They're going to open the door to having a meaningful conversation about how the crew can best work together that night and serve the game with a high level of consistency.
Great. So we're going to go through the 5 keys. We'll have some few just notes on each one of them, but basically this is a great place for us as officials to start every night in pregame. Good way for us to get on the same page. So I'm going to throw them up here on the board so you guys can read them. And then we're going to kind of talk about each one of them. So the first one is own your primary. In order to do this, as we go through the presentation today, we're going to talk a little bit about what our primary is. We're also going to talk about, refereeing players and not just spots on the floor. So as much as it's important to say own our primary, it's also really important to understand where on the floor we need to be looking. Referee the defense is number 2. This is probably the first thing you ever heard when you walked into refereeing for the first time. Definitely was the first thing I did because we all like to watch the ball. So one of the things we like to mention, we talk about refereeing the defense is, now that you guys have gotten some training and gotten better, it's really important that we understand, yes, we don't want, but we want you to be refereeing the defense and have awareness of the offensive player, right? Because we have to get to the feet of the offensive player first to know their pivot foot, and then we can referee the defense. Call the obvious. There's so many decisions on the basketball court to make. We want to simplify things a little bit and just talk about calling obvious plays in our primary. A lot of times when we're going outside of that is where our percentages and our accuracy start to drop. Don't guess. If we have a closed look, we'll talk about some of those terminologies and give you some examples, but we have a closed look on a play or we can't see the backside of something, just because it looks ugly, doesn't mean it's a foul. So we don't want to guess. Trust our partners. And that really leads us to the last one, number 5, trust the system. The system being what we're going to walk through today. We really want to take all the first 4 keys and roll it all up into one at the end and say, trust the system, trust each other, and trust our training.
Okay. So a couple of guidelines as we go through this. When we talk about positioning and coverage, we're talking about where we want to stand on the floor in each position to give us the best chance to get open angles and make correct decisions. And coverage means the way in which the crew will cover the play to set up the crew for success. So let's keep in mind that, like Josh said, our job is to referee players and plays and not spots on the floor. Just because your primary says we should be looking at the lower block, if there's nobody there, we're not doing the game any good. So in that situation, we need to find the next competitive matchup. Positioning fundamentals is about getting us in the right spot to have an open angle. We want to strive to get open angles on all plays. So with that, there's no magic spot on the floor. We're going to talk about guidelines that will help us be successful, but there's going to be situations in a game where, like I said, there's no magic spot on the floor. So just keep that in mind. And then during the game, if you're asking yourself, do I have an open look? If you don't, move. That's a great time to position adjust. So at the end of the day, we know that proper positioning leads to open angles. Open angles lead to correct decisions, and correct decisions lead to accurate play calling. I haven't worked a perfect game yet, but I know that if I master the fundamentals, my play calling improves significantly. So we do have some clips to show you guys tonight. As you do this, there's just a few important things I want to hit before we dive into that. Good reminders anytime that you get film, and anytime when we're sharing film. So the clips are for learning only. We didn't make any attempt to embarrass any school player or official. We always like to hit the positives first. Some proper video breakdown is going to include analyzing all three positions first, the positioning at all three positions. We want to talk about rules that apply to the play, and we want to avoid going straight to call validation, which doesn't help us get better. If the officials in the clip are in the proper position, we take the official's judgment every time. The reason we miss plays is because we're out of position or we're guessing. 99% of officials will get a play correct if they're in the proper position, looking at the correct player, and know the applicable rules. Every now and then we do simply just kick a call, and that's not the focus of video breakdown. That happens. We're human. We move on. So breakdowns for positioning, again, not call validation. So let's talk about the positioning fundamentals for the trail position. So if you guys have a pen and paper, now's a good time to get that out and copy these down. And I think this presentation is also being recorded, if I'm not mistaken, so you can get those too at a later date. But I'm gonna throw it back over to Josh.
Cool, thanks, Ben. So we're gonna go through each position, talk about basically a checklist for each one, give some examples, show some videos. If you have questions, please feel free to send them in the chat. We will try to stop throughout for questions. So if you have any that can wait, go ahead. We'll try to stop periodically throughout the presentation. So let's start with the trail. So we're going to start from, trailing the play in the backcourt. So when we have the ball coming up in the backcourt, we want to stay behind the ball. We want to be, 2 and 2 in the backcourt, which means 2 feet behind and 2 steps behind, 2 steps to the right or left of the ball handler. The reason we're doing this is because in the backcourt, we want to be able to have an open look at the defender to see the outside shoulder. But we also want to trail the play because if we have the event of a steal, we need to be able to transition back to lead and be in a good position to referee the next play. So we talk about in the backcourt, staying 2 and 2. Now at all times in the trail, we want to keep our shoulders at a 45-degree angle, point our chest at the target. And then when we get into the front court, our home base is just a guideline for us, right? Is the 28-foot mark. So that's where we'd like to get to, and we'd like to get to the 28-foot mark and work our way down. So we want to keep 10 and 2 at all times. 10 players and our 2 partners in our field of vision. Having our shoulders at a 45 will help that significantly. So when we get into the front court, we've been 2 and 2 coming up in the backcourt. Now we want to get even with the ball handler. One of the reasons why this has come into our game in the last 5-6 years is that the game has been more guard oriented and 3-point oriented. It's trickling down definitely from pro basketball to college and college to high school. So if we're able to get even with the ball handler in the front court, we have a better opportunity at being in a good position to referee 3-point shots. We want to stay sideline oriented, as well as stay connected to plays as they move to the basket. Our job on ball as a trail is to referee primary defenders on ball, stay connected to those plays as they go to the basket. Can also help us stay in rebounding. We want to go low for the point of contact. For anybody who hasn't heard point of contact before, that's the area from wrist to elbow. If we're even with the ball handler in the front court, we want to stay underneath those plays, give us the best open look at seeing flicks on the wrist or arm during 3-point shots. We also have responsibility for goaltending, basket interference as the trail, and clocks. We'll talk about clocks a few times during the night, but definitely applies to all 3 positions. Anytime you cross a line, check the clock. So you cross the free throw line or you cross the midcourt line, take a peek up at the clock. Good habits to build moving up in the trail. So here's a few examples. We'll kind of walk through some of these. So we're talking about backcourt throw-in. The keys to backcourt throw-ins is that we want to stay off the floor until the ball has crossed the free throw line, or at least until it's been inbounded, especially when there's pressure. I talked about earlier that if we have a quick steal and we are running ahead of the ball handler, we're going to be in a really bad position if that ball gets turned over to be able to get back to the end line. So stay behind the ball, trail the play. High school mechanics manual, page 104, allows us to bounce the ball across if there's no pressure. So note that as a mechanic. Just keeps everybody from rotating. One of the checklists that we've created for throw-ins for trail in the backcourt is to check the clocks, check the players or subs, check our partners, check the clocks again, and then we can inbound the ball. So again, as we move up the court on ball coverage, want to be 2 and 2. Here's a little illustration of kind of how that can look. We drew this red dotted line, if you guys can see that. Basically, we don't want to go any further than the middle of the key as the ball moves over to the other side of the court in the backcourt. And then as we move up the floor into the front court, we want to get to what we call 0 and 2, or even with the ball handler, and referee the defense. So drives to the basket. So as we get up into the front court, we get to our 28-foot line. We're even with the ball handler. This is the one opportunity for the trail to get out on the floor. We'd like you to stay sideline oriented, which means, 2 or 3 steps off of the sideline. It doesn't mean to stand on the sideline. But when this play happens, when the play dictates, we can get on the floor and stay connected. So what this is showing us is the offensive player takes that opposite lane line drive. And as they do that, this is where we really have to understand player coverage and what we can see versus what our partners can see. And so we want to attack this play. We want to stay on the floor. What we're looking for as a trail here is this hip check, this body bump, a reroute by the defensive player, because we can see in between those two. The center and lead don't have a very good shot right now at seeing if the defender, who's the gray dot, pushes the offensive player off of his path. So that's what we're seeing from the trail. The checklist here on this type of play is get on the floor 2 to 3 steps, referee that initial bump, but then trust our partners at the basket. Know that your open look is up here at the 3-point line or the free throw line, excuse me. As the ball continues down the lane, our good look diminishes, and that's where we have to trust our partners. So we're going to kind of show a clip and a little example here. I'll get that playing here in just a second. Make it full screen here, and then I'll restart it. So I'll play it one more time for you, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. The important thing to note here, a positive for you, is that the trail's on the floor. Okay, is our opportunity to step at the play. When we're doing video breakdown, if we're looking at this, we could say maybe we could take one more step. But the important thing is that we're saying, look, this ball went towards the opposite lane line, and we want to get on the floor and attack this play. As we build out through this presentation, as been mentioned, we'll kind of touch on each position in more detail, but that way we can keep moving. So going into screening, one of the keys to screening is we want to always move to get an open angle. We want to referee from the top down, and the center will referee from the bottom up. And what that means is that the trail official, when the ball's in your primary, you're going to referee the ball handler, the ball handler's defender, and you're going to referee the screening play 1, 2, 3, 4, as kind of illustrated here, and the center is going to referee the opposite way. We have to referee the defense, as we mentioned in our 5 keys, but we have to have an awareness of the offensive players on these plays, right? Screening's really, really difficult plays, and that's why they have to be 2 referee plays. Ben will kind of go over the center in a little bit more detail in the next section. So trail 3-point shots. This is really where a lot of the change to the trail position has been coming in. So if we're even with the ball handler, we're at the 28-foot line. As that offensive player dribbles towards the 3-point line, we want to maintain our open angle, be able to see the defensive player, and move down to get under the play. At this point, it's okay to have 2 centers. Again, we talked about this as more 3-point shots taken by all 5 players on the court. This is also a good thing to pregame, going into games, talking about 3-point shooters. But it's okay to have 2 centers in this situation. We need to protect this play. We also need to be ready for rebounding. We're not so much worried as having 2 centers and then getting beaten back down the floor. The likelihood that you get beat back down the floor on this play happens maybe once per game. We're probably averaging upwards of 15 or more 3-pointers per game. And so just from a straight math standpoint, getting under this play is going to happen more times than getting beat back. So we want to move on the pass or do our work early. We want our sequence here is to get to the feet of the offensive player to know if they're behind the 3-point line, then go to the defender. They'll take us to the point of contact when we watch the defense, allow the offensive player to land, and then we can go to rebounding. Kind of a key for this for us that we've taken from other people is think up, down, rebound. And that's our sequence. We want to take the offensive player and the defensive player up in the air, land them all the way back down safe to the floor, and then we can go to rebounding. We drew this little gray box here just to kind of give you this like gray area 3-point coverage that seems to sneak up on us, and we have like 2 referees marking it. A lot of times this is a good pregame topic, but we can just allow trail to keep those plays. and center can leave your markup to confirm that it's a 3, and then just go to rebounding. It keeps rebounding a little cleaner, and allows trail to referee that 3-point shot. So we'll talk a little bit about rebounding now. So as we mentioned, when we're refereeing shooters, we're going to think up, down, rebound. So what that means is that if rebounding for us is starting now on the release, then by the time an on-ball official, the center or the trail, get to rebounding, rebounding has already been happening, right? So if the shot originates in your primary, center or trail, you're going to have the up-down rebound, right? You're going to be the last one to rebound. Specifically for the trail, if the center has the shooter, we're going to have weak side rebounding. We're going to maintain big picture. We don't need to get on the floor here. And we're going to get our eyes to the weak side of the court where center usually would have, and then allow lead to cover strong side rebounding. We're kind of the last line of defense as trail. I'm sure some of you have heard that before. Especially with rebounding, we can always have a big picture look and come in with a whistle if needed here. So we'll talk about some things with throw-in. Throw-ins might look a little different this year for us, but the biggest thing is that on front court throw-ins, if we have a situation where the defense is pressuring the throw-in and the players are going to use the backcourt to get open, we want to bounce the ball and move back with those offensive players to keep 10-2, and we can still keep the count going. If we don't have players in the backcourt, we can step up into the front court, hand the ball. This year they'll probably have us bounce the ball to the thrower and keep our count going, and then be ready for the 3-point shot. So again, we need to keep 10-2. However, as you can see here, on a throw-in, we need to be ready for the next play. So if the trail is standing way back by the half court line when we hand the ball in and there's nobody back there and they pass the ball in to the 3-point shooter and they shoot, we now have to move to get in position. Whereas if we're already up there and ready for the play, then it may be as much as like one step, and now we can see under a 3-point shot. And actually, we're going to jump to this clip because it's one of my favorites. Okay, so here we go. So everybody watch the trail here. Everybody still hear me okay?
Yeah, and we can see your video too.
Cool. My computer just told me it was unstable. So, okay. So everybody watching the trail here, as we can see, all 10 players are below the free throw line, right? And our trail is already positioned just well below the 28-foot line and is anticipating this play. And he really does a great job at putting himself in a position on a throw-in to not have to move. I'll play it one more time. So he stays low, the guy catches, he's able to get the feet defender, and he doesn't have to take a step.
Josh, you were a little choppy. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So basically he was able to be in the right position. He didn't have to move. He saw the feet, the defender, was able to referee the play without even taking a step.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to kick it over to Ben now. We're going to go through the center position If there's any questions on the trail, we can definitely see them in the chat, right, Ben?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the chat, and I hadn't seen any questions come in on that. But if you've got one, throw it in there, and we'll be monitoring that. We'll either get to it at the end of this section, or we might just get to it right away if it's applicable to what we're getting at.
Just a quick wrap up on the trail. We want to stay connected to plays. We want to get even with the ball handler in the front court. We want to be ready for 3-point shots, getting under those plays. And we want to referee the defense while having an awareness of the offensive players.
Awesome.
Hey,
all right.
Josh.
Go ahead.
Josh, really quick. There was a question. Ken Jackson asks, why did he mark the 3 with the inside arm?
Oh, great question, Ken. Yeah, so let's go back to this play real quick. Everybody see it okay? So I pause it here. I don't know if it's very clear. I know sometimes these video qualities are tough, but basically the reason why he marked it with his inside hand is that the offensive player is on his left side. And so we teach that when the offensive player is on your left, you mark with the right hand so that you don't have to look through your arm while you're trying to referee the point of contact plays on 3-point shots. So if the offensive player was on his right side, he could then mark with the left arm instead. That way he's able to turn his head and referee the play without trying to look through his forearm. You're not going to find that in the mechanics book, but it's just something that we've taught to help people referee point of contact plays. But thanks for the question, Ken.
And then Michael's
go ahead, Ben. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Michael's got another question. I'll read it, and then Josh, if you want to take it,
yeah,
you can. But Michael Sato says, what about minimal contact on the arm or hand of an airborne shooter after the ball has been released?
So yeah. So say the question piece one more time.
What do we do with minimal contact on the arm or hand of an airborne shooter after the ball's been released?
Okay. So the first thing is that when we understand that the rules about shooters is that they're in their shooting motion until they return to the floor, correct? And so what we have to do is, from a judgment standpoint, determine does the contact affect the shot, right? One of the maybe guidelines is that there is more than likely not going to be marginal contact on jump shooters. And what that means is that when a shooter is airborne, any contact may throw off his shot. And so I'm not saying that we always have to call fouls every time a shooter gets touched. And so you just kind of have to determine, like, if it affected the shot, if the shot's gone already and he brushes him and it doesn't affect anything, he's still able to land safely, then you may be able to judge that it didn't affect the shot and be defended. But I would say that by rule in the rule book, a contact on a player that's airborne is more than likely going to be a foul. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it all comes down to protecting the shooter, like Bob just said. Okay. Ready for center? So in the center position, we're going to start by talking about our transition from front court to backcourt, backcourt to front court. So we want to run with the pack. So this is in transition is what I'm trying to say. Run with the pack. So it's important that we don't bail early on rebounds and we don't hang back too long. When the majority of the players is moving up the floor, that's what we want to referee. That's actually our primary as the center in transition. So the mechanics manual says that in transition, the center has from free throw line to free throw line and all the way across the floor. So that's our primary. We've got a diagram to highlight that, but that's our primary. So when the majority of the players are in that area, we need to be with them and refereeing them. One last point on that is if the ball is being brought up on our nearest third of the floor, we want to be even with the ball, because what can happen is we can have a tough block charge play that we need to be able to see that defender. So we would want to be more even with the ball. If the ball's in the middle third of the floor or even the opposite third, so it's away from us, we can be a step behind the play because we've got a better look, and we'll be able to we'll see more players in our field of vision. So as we go in transition, we have a play to show this in action. But once we get into the front court, our home base for the center is the free throw line extended, and we want to have our shoulders parallel to the sideline, and we want to be actually on the floor. So reason for that is because if we're off the floor and the ball hits us, now it's out of bounds. It's likely going to be a turnover going the other way. But if we're inbounds, we can actually allow play to continue if we can't, get out of the way. But from there, our position adjustments are going to either be up to 2 steps high or up to 2 steps low. And a good key for this is the free throw circle. The top of the free throw circle is about 2 steps high. The bottom of the free throw semicircle is about 2 steps low. So that's kind of the range, you can get a visual in your head of where we're going to position just high and low. Some situations when we want to go high are going to be for on-ball screens that are above the three-point line. And then for going low, we've got, drives to the baskets. We want to go low. If we've got a shot that we need to get under, obviously go low. And then we're going to talk about curl plays and what those are. We're going to get more in depth at the lead position. But for now, just think if you see a potential curl play, which will be when the offensive post player on the opposite block has the ball and is going to make a move, we got to be thinking curl play. And then key number 6 for the center is don't leave an open look. And what we're getting at with this is we are doing everything we can to get open looks and to maintain open looks. So if the lead comes over, if we're the center and we've got an open look on a play and the lead comes over and now we're the new trail, just because we're the new trail doesn't mean that we want to just walk to that spot on the floor. Because if we've worked our way into an open look, when that lead comes over, just stay there and referee that play until the play dissipates, and moving to trail isn't going to cause you to have a closed look or a stacked look. Point number 7 is we've got goaltending and basket interference coverage. And then point number 8 is clocks, which Josh hit on before. Whenever we cross the line, we need to be aware of the clocks. It's something that we try to hammer home on each of the 3 positions because it's important and it can get us out of a lot of tricky situations. There's nothing more embarrassing than having the clock run or not run for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds and nobody's aware of that. So let's go to the next slide and talk about off ball and cutters. So, I know you guys had the 2-person training last night, and the reason that we have 3-person, the reason that the center official came into 3-person is to watch all that off ball junk, and cutters. And so basically let's keep the main thing for center. We need to be watching off ball and having an awareness of all the cutters and when screens are coming, because the screens are 2 referee plays. We need to have an opinion on that play. on any screen. So we've got a little diagram here that's highlighting the fact that the ball is in the trail's primary, and in the center's primary, we have a post player who's going to be setting a screen on the block for a 3-point shooter to pop out, try to receive that pass and alight to shoot. So as a center, if we're not watching off ball, nobody's going to see this play. If we've got an experienced lead, he might have an opinion on it, but this is in our primary. And so we need to assess the legality of that screen even before, that shooter gets the ball, because if there was contact and delay, and that's how the shooter got open, well, we have a foul. And if we don't get to it, we don't call it, potentially 3 points that they really shouldn't have earned. So we have another checklist here for center, thinking off ball and cutters. We want to, our antennas need to go up anytime we see a screen coming. We've mentioned that before. Those are two referee plays. We've got cutters. We're watching for freedom of movement. We're trying to have an awareness of our partners as well and referee where our partners can't. So sometimes they're, because of angles and because of competitive matchups, the center might not have a competitive matchup, but they can assist on a play that's outside their coverage if the other officials have a closed look. We need to be ready for the curl play so we aren't surprised by that. And then the last thing I wanted to stress is that the center does have help on block charge plays. So I'm trying to stress help, because a strong center will have an opinion on the block charge play, be ready to help the crew if for some reason the lead gets stacked, they have a closed look. It's been me before where I'm just like, I don't know if that was a block or a charge, and your wheels start turning and we don't have a whistle. Great time for the center to have an opinion and come out with a whistle. We do really want to avoid double whistles on these plays because it just adds to confusion and it tends to break our concentration. So let's also add to our pregame that, lead, we'll get to it in depth more too, but lead's got all secondary defenders at the basket. Center needs to have an opinion, and we'll try very hard not to have, especially not to have a primary cadence on that play. And, if we do have a double whistle, which isn't the absolute end of the world, but the center has got to be patient and disciplined to just post that foul and let the lead take it and do what he or she judges is the best call for the situation. That's going to help us avoid a blarge. And I'm speaking from experience because I've been part of one and I was the culprit. So kind of hits near and dear to my heart. All right, so let's see. Let's go to the next one, which is we're going to talk about screening. So with screening, we mentioned for the trail, it's the same diagram that we brought up with the trail. And we mentioned that the trail's got top down. Well, the center has bottom up. So if we can agree to a top down, bottom up approach, we know that we're going to cover this screen the most effective way. And so when we're the center, if we see this screen coming at the top of the 3-point line, we need to make our position adjustment up because it does a couple things. One, we're moving to get an open angle. But two, it also signals to our trail that he or she has help on this play. So they don't have the whole thing to referee. And as we go through, we're looking at the screener's defender first. We're looking at the screener, and then we'll move to the primary matchup if needed, if that's all clean. So things to be careful of and to watch for, especially as a center. You can make the crew look really good if the screener's defender pushes the screener into the primary defender. It's going to look like an illegal screen to everybody, but the center, by keeping off ball and focusing on the screener's defender, they're going to see the push and be able to call the appropriate foul. Let's move on to rebounding. So center, a lot of the same keys for rebounding, but if the shot originates in the center's primary, again, think up, down, rebound. You're going to be the last one to rebounding, so we need to trust our partners. The shot originates in the trail's primary. We need to get to a rebounding immediately, and we've got the weak side rebounding coverage. And for those of you that haven't heard that terminology before, the weak side is whatever side the center is on. So it's not in relation to the ball, it's in relation to us as a crew, and whether or not we're talking about the center side of the floor or the trail and the lead side of the floor. All right, rotations. So this is just a diagram that's trying to illustrate an instance where we have the post player coming over. Lead is initiated, actually finished a rotation, and the center has the primary matchup with potentially a three-point shot coming about the free throw line. So the center's done a really great job in this diagram to get in position to have an open angle, and we just cannot be moving out of that open angle just because the lead comes over. Okay, so we're still refereeing players and plays in this situation. Again, not just looking for where's the spot on the floor to go. So the center does need to be aware that the lead's rotated, obviously, and have that awareness so that if there's a steal, you're actually the trail. Now you're the new lead, so you do need to hustle down to the end line. So let's be patient and let's move out of that position when the play dictates. So our checklist is never leave an open look. We need to have an awareness of the post on the front side of the post because the center can see that, and they're in a great position being low to see that. The lead has a really hard time seeing the front side of that play, especially depending on what side of the offense the defender is on. And again, no rush to become trail. Just know that you actually are the trail. And we have a center rotation clip here to show you guys. So in this situation, we've got a lead rotation. The center has gotten an open look. They're maintaining an open look. We want the center to stay in this position because if we back out, we're disconnecting from that play. We lose our look. It's going to make it us harder to assist on travel in the post or any sort of contact from a help defender. So ball gets in, there's no rush. Center, new trail, knows that they have to get back immediately if the rebound comes off, defense gets it or there's a made basket. In this case, made basket, and then hightail it down. Does the C, so there's a question here. So I think while we're on this one, does the C need to go down as the lead comes over? Yeah, stay connected to the play you're refereeing, exactly. And if, like in this clip, if that outside offensive player passes the ball into the post and doesn't do anything, I mean, he's just standing there at that point. He's like, I'm gonna watch what the post player does. We don't need to referee that play anymore. So we can help in the post on a potentially difficult play by being in that position and not moving ourselves, because if the trail if the trail in this freeze frame was at the 28-foot mark, you'd be looking right in the middle right in the back of that white guard. You'd be useless, right? So that's a great question, Michael. Thank you. Thanks for asking. I think that there's Let's go to the press coverage unless there's anything else that pops up. So again, center in a press situation, we have a backcourt throw in here on this diagram. We want to be starting at the second line of defense. So the first line of defense would be the player guarding the ball, and the second line of defense are these two players who are guarding the offense, the two offensive guards who are trying to get the ball. Remember, our primary is free throw line to free throw line, and a lot of times teams will set a screen to free up the offensive player to receive that initial pass, the initial inbounds pass. So we need to be watching for screens. We need to be ready if there's a turnover to have a quick play at the basket. And then also on a long pass, we need to get to the receiver of the pass as quickly as we can identify, because a lot of times we'll have a catch and crash. We'll have, especially if that offensive player is moving to catch the pass, we need to know if the defender was set up, had initial legal guarding position before the offensive player left the floor to catch the ball. Those catch and crash plays can get us in trouble. I had a game years ago. I had 8 or 9 of those. I didn't have any idea about positioning fundamentals, and we had 0 whistles, and I still remember to this day. It was an awful feeling. Kids are getting hurt, and it's really, I just can't harp on it enough to stay with that play. And the center might be the only one to be able to see that. Okay, so here's an example of running with the pack. We've got in the gray box, we're outlining the free throw line to free throw line, sideline to sideline. This is the center's primary. Sometimes you do have to go all the way across the floor to get a foul. But we're running with the pack. We're running with the majority of the players in this situation. And again, we're sideline to sideline, free throw line to free throw line. I think our clip's up next. So here's just an example of a play where we've got a press situation, and we've got the center is just about even with the second line of defense. Maybe needs to take a step towards the end line a little bit more. You can't see it in this play, but the lead's about 10 feet behind the last offensive player. And so when the ball gets inbounded, as a center, we got to be aware of the pass, and the trailer needs to be aware of the pass too, because it's on that sideline. But in the middle of the floor, center is really the only one that can see this impact, where the guy receiving the pass gets run over from behind. So it might seem like a long ways across the floor for the center to go to get this play, but if we're trusting the system, the trail's not going to guess on this play. The lead's not going to guess on this play, because the center's ready and knows that they're going all the way across the floor. Awesome. So that's our center coverage highlights. I didn't see any questions in the chat. If you've got one, pop it in real quick, or else I'll turn this over to Josh, and he can finish this up with the lead. Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. So yeah, let's move on to the lead now, kind of complete the picture here. We'll start off by talking about lead is kind of one of those positions that is all about our partners. Little to do about us. And so everything we talk about with lead is going to be about putting our partners in good spots. So we're going to hustle from trail to new lead. I know Ben mentioned in press situations, we might not go all the way to the end line quite yet, but we do need to hustle. We need to get there to accept that first competitive matchup. More times than not, if our eyes are not moving when we're refereeing a play, it's easier to see. If we're running up and down, our eyes are bouncing up and down, it's going to be a little bit harder for us. So if we can get to the end line, get to our spot, and referee and accept that first competitive matchup, which is usually the post players coming down to the blocks, trying to establish position, we can see the play the longest. So we'll show a diagram here in a minute about transition with the lead, but basically if it comes up in your third of the floor, the lead, we'd like you to stay wide with the ball. And then if it comes up in the middle third of the court or the opposite third, we'll go straight to close down. Close down is the spot where the lane line intersects the baseline. So just a good key for transition. We don't want to banana route our way there. What we'd like to do without running in between players is that when we're hustling down to the end line, we want to run in the most direct straight line as possible to whatever position, whether it be closed down or staying wide with the ball. Shoulders at a 45, just like the trail position. And we're going to mirror the ball. What that means is that when the ball's on our side of the floor, we want to be as wide with the ball, but no further than about halfway between the lane line and the sideline, or just inside the 3-point line, right? So our primary coverage doesn't extend outside the 3-point line. So we'd mirror the ball as it gets on that wing, all the way out to just inside the 3-point line. And then as the ball is swung, we want to move kind of in concert with the ball. We want to rotate the ball side. And as I kind of mentioned, the lead's about putting our partners in the best position possible. So we want to make decisions to rotate in order to put the crew in the best possible position to referee the play. We do have the 3 immediates where we do not rotate. So this at any time during our rotation, before we've completed it, before we have made it to the other side of the lane line and we've turned our shoulders, we don't want to rotate on a immediate shot, immediate drive to the basket, or immediate pass. It's all about putting our partners in the best position. When those 3 things are happening, the best decision we can do is to back out of a rotation. And that way our partners are in a better position to not only referee that play, but the next play forward. Secondary defenders. This is, we'll touch on this on a slide, but this is the big key to the lead. Lead has primary coverage on secondary defender block charge plays at the basket. And then again, clocks. I know we've mentioned this twice already, but as you're running down in lead, we're hustling. We need to keep our head turned back at the players and be watching the players. And we also need to keep our head turned so we can see the clock as we're running down the floor.
Hey, Josh, can I add something on the clocks real quick?
Yeah.
We didn't really mention it, but, you know, we're talking about the game clock and the shot clock. So just keep that in mind too. It's important that we get a good shot clock start. So if we have a, shot clock violation, it's didn't start too early, didn't start too late, things like that. So it's both game clock and shot clock. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So here's the 3 examples of in transition. So the one on the furthest left has the ball in the lead's third, and so the lead would stay wide with the ball, but doesn't want to go outside that 3-point line. When the ball is in the middle or opposite third coming up the floor, the lead would run in a direct line straight to close down. The reason that this is important is because when it's in the opposite third on this far right and it gets into the front court, well, now it's in center's primary, and now we need to be ready to rotate. And so if we don't run to close down and the ball's over there, and then a post matchup gets on that block over on center side, now we're late, and now we have to walk even farther in order to get over there. And we might not get there in time to help our center out. And so if we run straight to close down and transition, that ball settles over there on center side of the floor. Now we're already in a good position and we can make the decision to rotate. All right, so the secondary defenders. All right, so the key here is like I mentioned, lead has primary coverage on all secondary defender block charge plays at the basket. We want a referee from the feet up. And it's really important that the reason that we want lead to have primary coverage on these plays is because we want the referee who is covering that player or matchup who has seen the play the longest has a better chance of getting the play right and having all the information. So when I'm the lead and I'm refereeing the post matchup in the lane, and the guard on center side, like in this diagram, decides to drive to the basket, the lead has been watching that defender in the post the whole time. So when they move over now to take a charge, the lead has seen the start of that play, the develop, the finish, and now can make a decision on whether or not that would be an offensive foul or a blocking foul. And so we've been taught this in some of our training coming up, but a good way to talk about this is start, develop, finish, and then decide. As Ben mentioned, we want to get our fist up first, right? That's what's in the mechanics manual. It's also good that way if we do have double whistles that we can avoid the blarge situation, and then have the lead give a signal. Again, get to secondary defenders early. Know where they came from. There's also why it's important to get our fist up in the air is because of first foul scenarios. If the lead's covering secondary defenders and the center's covering the on-ball defender, and we're trusting the system, and the center has the on-ball defender push the ball handler into the charge, and we both have a whistle and we both put our fist up in the air, now we can communicate and get together, and I can go to Ben and say, Ben, I have a push in the back first, a first foul on the defender before the charge. And so now it gives us an opportunity to communicate and get the play right in the end. So for the lead, the checklist, we're really looking for the legality of the defensive player, 2 feet on the floor facing the offense. They can move laterally or obliquely, which means at an angle to maintain. And then we really want to understand if the defender's legal or not, because we don't want to penalize offense-initiated contact. So if we can know where that defender started and where they finished prior to contact, then we can judge whether or not they were legal or not. So we got a clip here. We'll play, showing the coverage. Okay, we'll play one more time. So you see the lead, the ball gets passed over to the center side, and we have immediate drive, and the lead was thinking about rotating. And so he decides to take a step back out and not rotate. He's keeping his eyes on the secondary defender the entire time, sees him come over, plant 2 feet on the floor facing, and rules that is an offensive foul, gets his fist up, does a really good job at A, not rotating, and B, watching the secondary defender all the way. Okay, so we've touched on rebounding from the trail and from the center so far. So we want to go to lead. So we want to keep, the important thing is we need all 3 officials involved in rebounding. Like I mentioned with lead and secondary defenders, the referee who sees the play the longest or is refereeing those players the longest will have the majority or all the information in order to make a decision. So if we have a shot in trail's primary, like in this diagram, the trail is going to have up, down rebound. The center, has been mentioned, will have weak side rebounding. And the lead, who has been refereeing off ball in the post, will have strong side rebounding. primary responsibility. Because their rebounding is going to start on the release, the lead will have seen this play on the release, start, develop, finish, and will be able to decide on the rebound whether or not there is a foul by either player. One of the keys to this is think who's in the least advantageous position. That can always help you get your eyes to the player that might commit a foul. We also want to worry about possession consequence. Rebounding is definitely one of the more physical parts of our game. And so if we do have contact on rebounding, it's good to understand that if the defender is able to rebound the ball, clear it, pass it out to his teammate, and there was maybe a little bump or a hit on the shoulder, we might be able to make a different decision knowing that it didn't affect the outcome of the rebound. This is an opportunity for us to use our voice to talk to the players, tell them to be easy, let them know where you're at, maybe talk to them during the free throw. Hey, you guys are getting rough on rebounding. The last thing we want to do is put a ton of rebounding fouls on the bigs and send them to the benches. In high school, we don't really usually have too many bigs. So when we start getting a bunch of cheap rebounding fouls on these guys, it's bad. So if we can talk to them and use our voice and help them understand what's legal and not, then without obviously overstepping our coaching responsibilities. But and again, rebounding starts on the release of the shot. So big key for rebounding, we've talked about in all three positions. We need everybody involved. We know that whoever has the shooter is going to be late. And so we need two officials, lead or trail or lead or center, to be on rebounding. So let's go over rotations really quick. And then we got a clip. So the keys to rotations here, Ben talked about the center position, so we don't need to cover that. But we want to put our partners in the best position. We want to get ball side as quickly as possible. That way that the center, especially in this scenario on the screen, isn't refereeing more than they have to as far as matchups go. So as you can see here, there's probably by accident 4 competitive matchups in center's primary, and we need to get over there to help. There's 2 types of pace when we're walking in our rotations. The ball just got swung over, okay, and we're already at close down and the post players are starting to move that way. We can walk over with just a regular good pace. Ball gets skipped past over to the center side and there's already 2 players in the post fighting for position. Now we might want to accelerate our pace when we rotate. We don't ever want to run. It just limits our options as far as being able to back out. So we can still have very good pace when we walk over without running. Always want to referee where we're going. Another official in Spokane who's done a lot of training for the high school kind of coined a phrase, and he said he likes to look at the block on his side, the elbow, and then the block on the opposite side as he rotates. That helps him scan the lane to see where competitive matchups are at. So block, elbow, block when you're rotating across the lane can help you identify what matchups you need to look at as you rotate. We'd like to lead the so in this case, the ball's out on the wing. We'd like you to walk all the way out wide with the ball handler and then turn your shoulders. That way we're not turning early and then backing out, and now we lose sight of the ball and our partner. We always want to keep 10 and 2. So I cover the 3 immediates, but we always can back out as far as we rotate over before we've completed on a shot, drive, or any pass. And then a quick checklist. Ball is crossed the opposite lane line on center side. We want to rotate, or at least be thinking about rotating. As settles on center side, we want to rotate, and we have that post matchup over there. Those are all kind of keys to when we need to make the decision to rotate to put our partners in a good spot. Now we'll show a quick clip. Whoops, sorry. Click happy. So just watch the lead here. This kind of focuses on the three immediates. The lead's making decisions throughout this whole play. So he does a really good job on the pass back up. He begins his rotation. Now we have another pass and a shot. The lead does a really good job on this play. I'm gonna play it one more time, but the lead does a really good, maybe. He does a really good job. The ball's on center, so he begins to rotate. Now he backs out because it swings back over. Now he's gonna rotate again, but then it gets passed in the middle of the lane. We have a shot, so he backs out. So about the entire time the lead's refereeing matchups, he's also making decisions on, I don't need to rotate here because I want to help my partners out. So really good job on the lead. That was kind of a hectic possession, but he's really patient and doesn't just rotate to rotate. So I believe one of the last things we'll talk about on this is we're going to talk about this and then a throw-in play, but curl plays. Ben's mentioned it a few times. So these are where the ball gets entered into the post, lead side, and the ball handler is going to curl into the middle of the lane. The reason why we bring up this play is because we want the referee who has the best look and the open look to call this play. So this is player coverage versus court coverage. So as this play curls away from the lead begins to get a closed look and be looking through the backs of players. Whereas the center now, who was looking through backs of players, now as the play curls towards him, is got a tremendous look in between the offense and the defensive player. So as the lead, if I'm trusting the system and I have the ball in the post and they start to curl away from me, my thought process is keep my air low and think curl away, stay away. And as that ball curls away into the lane, I'm thinking stay away, because I'm trusting the system and I know my partner in the center has position adjusted down. They're ready for the curl play. And when it does curl and that defender hits the post player on the arm in the middle of the lane, I know my center's got the best look at it and ultimately will take the play, even though it's in my primary, because we're talking about player coverage rather than worried about spots on the floor. So lastly, we'll talk about sideline throwing. This is just a quick add-in. They changed this for high school basketball, I believe last year or the year before. Sound the whistle. The ball goes out of bounds below the free throw line. The lead official is going to administer the throw-in, bounce the ball to the offensive player, and you're going to, by the mechanics manual, count and chop the clock, and the trail can mirror your chop to start the clock. One of the things that's good to pregame about this is that we can always communicate with the trail if we have a post matchup that's highly competitive. It's always good for us to have conversations and say, hey, trail, can you take the throw in because I got this post matchup and they're going to try to enter the ball there and I need to get to that play early. But in the manual, it says sideline throw in, the lead will bounce and administer and cover that throw in, and the trail will cover off ball until the ball's inbounded. That's all we have. So real quick recap and we'll get into any questions. I know we're running over time a little bit for you guys, so thanks for your patience. Lead as primary, secondary defenders, rotate to put our partners in the best position. And then whoever is refereeing the play the longest is going to have all the information. So Ben, do we have any questions up on the chat?
I didn't see any questions come in. Oh, here's one. Okay, so Brian asked, is there any specific logic regarding position rotation?
Brian, I'm thinking maybe you're talking about like logic around.
Just
What?
talking logic, like going from trail to center or lead to center, that type of logic, like on a foul call rotation.
Oh, okay. Like during a dead ball, like
Correct.
switch, when we have a
Yep.
foul. Well, the calling official is going to trail, right, to report to the table, and staying table side, right? And so, one, that gives us an opportunity to communicate with the coaches. And so, I think that that's probably the biggest logic there, is just giving us the platform to communicate with the table, communicate with the coaches. Other than that, I think that any other opportunity where the mechanics manual allows us to switch and get in a different position is probably just allowing us to say, look, if you had a foul call, maybe we need to move another official into those positions so that everybody is able to kind of see different plays and different spots on the floor. So I think it would we would all hate it. And so would the coaches and players if I was stuck in the lead all night and calling all the fouls of the basket. So I hope that answers your question.
Hey, Josh, I have a question.
Yeah, Manny.
When you're in transition, going from old trail to new lead, and the ball is on the C side, and you go, you position yourself into the close down. Do you keep in mind where your new trail is before you rotate to help the C, or
Yes.
you just go where you have to go?
Yeah. Great point, Manny. Thanks for bringing that up. So when we get to close down and I'm seeing that ball come up my center side of the floor, I want to wait until my trail and the players are all in the front court. That way that I don't rotate over and now my trail's still in the backcourt and has no idea, and now they have to sprint down to the free throw line extended. So I'm going to wait till they're in the front court, wait till all the players are in the front court, then I can make that decision to rotate. So thanks, Manny. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great question.
Except if Manny's in the trail, because I know Manny's fast, and so he can run.
Not anymore.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob.
Bob, I was just about to bring yours up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, real quick. And again, I want to commend you guys on a great job you're doing. And this is clearly from an observation point of view when you talk about the lead official and the lead official having a secondary defender. Now, we know he's concentrating on the secondary defender, and you talked about the feet and up. My question to you guys in making that call, when does the lead actually gather all that information and take a look at the offensive player, whether he or she has started the upward motion before the defender got there? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah. So
I think, could you help me with that one? Because I see that one a lot, and everybody's concentrating on the defender, but they don't see the offensive player. Maybe he or she's starting that upward motion prior to the defender getting there.
Yeah. So I think that's really the sequence part of it of how we have to get our eyes to these plays. And I would say that as the lead, when we're refereeing these plays, if we're on the defender, now they slide over. By rule, they have to be there before the offense leaves the floor.
Right.
So as they slide over, that's our opportunity, I think, to say defender. They're moving over, and I'm kind of feeling the fact that they're going to go take a charge.
Okay.
And out of the corner of my eye, then that's the point where I need to say defender is legal, offensive player is on the, is left the floor. So almost to me, it's like defender is not legal, contact. I know it's a block, but I go not legal, offensive players on the floor, offensive foul. I don't know if that helps, but
no, that's good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Hey, one other quick question, and we talk about definitions. There is not a definition in the rule book for the word trust. And I think if we had a definition and went through that a lot more, and again, you guys know as well as I do, you can talk about trust, but trust is different between people.
Mhm.
The level of trust. So I think I'd like to emphasize when you guys talk about trust, your partner, how far does that really, really go in making a call?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll take a stab at this one. Trust is huge. I mean, that's an understatement. But a couple things that can build trust is, let's make it a point to, when we're greeting each other and we're learning names, we're learning about each other's families, we're learning about stuff that happens off the court, because we're all people and we're all bringing something to the game, and our trust starts even before we get into the locker room.
Right.
And then we start talking about the same stuff. Okay, let's talk about the trail checklist, the center. Now we're building trust with what we're going to do on the floor, and then hopefully after the game, or if there's a situation that comes up, we've got some trust to be able to discuss that play. And so those are some of the hard decisions or discussions to have. But if we don't trust each other, if we have three individuals out there, the coaches will wedge in, they'll just tear us apart so fast. And then we're on an island. We're already on an island, the three of us, if we are a team, and so Chuck brings up a great point too, that respect is part of the equation too. So Bob, I'm glad you brought it up, and I don't think I could say enough about it. I mean,
and again,
Can I say
just want to
something?
reiterate on some words that you guys use. I wish there was the definition in the rule book, because we've all been there where you see that word, we talk about it, but not everybody understands the trust that you talked about, from the pregame to the game to after the game. And those are all key components that just helping you have a good game.
Yeah.
Could I chime in on something?
Please, man.
Yeah.
I think is also part of people getting into the mechanics manual and understanding what is that the WIAA or the WOA and the National Federation want us to do. And when you see that people actually study the book and do things the way the federation want us to referee the game and cover the floor and do the mechanics and do the signals and all that kind of stuff, when you work with people that have the same knowledge of the book than you do, you trust that person more than a person that might be a veteran and might be around for a long time, but now you have to actually referee different because they don't know the mechanics just as well as you do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think anything
Great
like
job.
that too takes time. I mean, we could be the best positioning referees in the world, Bobby, and we get out on the floor with a legend like you, and
Oh,
we're still young guys trying to figure it out too. So I think trust is also earned, and we could study all we want, but I think it takes time. We have to.
but I'm here to learn more from you guys as well. I want you to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bob.
That's right, Chuck. Holloway is a young dude.
Not a single gray hair in that mustache. I'm impressed.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there was one more, Ben and Josh, that came through the chat to me directly here. So when the trail is handing a play off to the center official, what are some of the keys that you guys use when the ball is in the gray area or potentially dual coverage area?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I know Ben talked about in the center, we need to position adjust up to kind of show the trail that we're engaged with the play. I think that is one way that we can signal to our partners that we are accepting a play, is by moving with our body and showing that we are looking and reacting to a play. It's also your eyes. I mean, I think that there are opportunities between the trail and center where we can make quick eye contact to say, oh, I see that Manny's looking at that play now, and so that's my cue that I can leave. And Ben, I don't know if you have more to add to that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is that pregame topic that we also need to have is that the play is the trails until the trail gives it up. So that's how we can avoid a gray area. And we've got 2 referees looking at a play, or we've got no referees looking at a play. So as that ball gets dribbled over to the opposite free throw line extended, as a center, I'm having an awareness that it's coming over here. And if I see as the trail, if I take a step on the floor, that's also going to communicate that I'm still on that play. And for me personally, what I'll do is if I'm ready to hand it off, I'll look at the center to see where the center's looking real quick. If he's still looking in the post, I have to get back to the matchup. If I look at the center and the center is ready to accept that play, then I'm going somewhere else. So it is just super quick. But Josh makes a great point as well. With our body language, we can communicate. With our eyes, we can communicate. Some guys will move their hand, to their side or something like that. Just a little something to visually cue, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's not kid ourselves. So all those things, talk about it. Hey guys, how do we want to handle this? The handoff from trail to center tonight. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what we can do to make sure that we're not over reffing or not reffing that play at all.
Thank you. Yeah, and then just really quick, everyone, I know, as I think Josh and Ben alluded to, we're a little bit over time. So if you need to drop off, go ahead. Ben and Josh, do you guys have about 5 more minutes if there is more questions?
Yeah,
right, so
sure.
We'll keep the call going for about 5 more minutes.
Yeah, we do want to say thank you too. We really are humbled, and thank you for the opportunity to even be here to present. It's definitely makes us better by being here. So thank you guys so much for having us on and giving us this opportunity. So.
And being engaged with great questions, it means the world to us. So thank you.
If we got anything wrong, it's Bobby Holloway gave us all the information. So
But you got confused by watching the football game behind him.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more that was sent to me directly here. So when does the lead leave secondary defender to determine if the offensive player has started his upward motion?
Well, Josh kind of hit on that earlier. I'll add something else too as another way to kind of think about that play. But to piggyback on what he said, so if I'm the lead and I've got a secondary defender that's moving over to take a charge, we really need to be able to, for a time, referee both of those players. So as the defender moves over, there's going to be a period in time where they're trying to get to their spot, but they're not at their spot yet. So take a look at the offense real quick. Where's the offensive player coming from? What's the status of the ball? Then for one of my checklists is that I want to know the exact moment that the defender is legal. So in my mind, I'm saying defender's legal, and once I make that split-second decision, I'll take a peek again at the offensive player to see where that person is. So if they have left the floor, if they haven't left the floor, I'll know that at that instant that the defender is legal. So those are just 2 ways of, to think about it before they've gotten legal and then once they've gotten legal. But those are tough plays, and that's why it's really important for the center to have an opinion on those plays. It's not their primary play. We won't want to have a primary whistle cadence on that play, but we definitely want to have an opinion. And the trail's not off the hook either, because if we have no whistles and there's 2 players on the floor and this is a crash at the basket, it's something that we've been told and we're being harped on we need to have whistles on those plays. Long gone is the day where we can just no call it, right? So the trail can't absolve themselves from any responsibility either. And that's what Josh was getting at when he said, have that big picture mentality. You're actually removed enough, you can just maybe even ref it on feel, the exact split second. You've got more of that feel from the coaches and the benches and the table than, and the fans than the lead or the center. So, you know, those are tough plays, and there's a lot of information that, you know, is coming at you, and we've been taught, and it believe me, you know, I get those plays wrong too. So, but again, I think the point that one of the things that has helped us and that we're trying to also give back is having checklists for certain situations, so that when I get in my car and I start my car, it's just bang, bang, boom, mirrors, gauges, reverse, shoulder, it's just the same thing, and it becomes routine, and it becomes a lot, we have a lot more space to process a bang, bang play. So I love it. I love that. Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Great points. Thanks, Ben. Our last call here for questions, and then we will end the meeting. So we'll take one more question if anybody has one, and then we'll end it here. All right, it doesn't look like there's any more. So Ben and Josh, thank you so much for taking the time and providing that training for us. And then to everyone else on the call still, thank you for staying late and gathering all this knowledge. Everyone have a great night. Take care.
Thanks,
Hey,
Bob.
great seeing you guys.
Thanks, Josh,
Ben,
Bob,
Josh,
Ben.
great seeing you.
Yeah, you too, Manny.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good job.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Scott.
Appreciate
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
Hey, Gibson,
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with this call tonight, but since you're on the call, there's a dude that wants to start reffing with us, but I think he's in another